Kings. King Hezekiah of Judah. In the 3rd year of the reign of Hoshea, son of Elah, as king of Israel, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, became king of Judah at the age of 22, and he ruled in Jerusalem for 29 years. His mother was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah. Before Hezekiah became king of Judah, people of Judah and Israel disobeyed God and worshipped other false gods. Following the example of his ancestor King David, King Hezekiah did what was pleasing to the Lord. He destroyed the pagan places of worship, broke the stone pillars, and cut down the images of the goddess Asherah. He also broke in pieces the bronze snake that Moses had made, which was called Nehustan. Up to that time, the people of Israel had burnt incense in its honor. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of his ancestors. Judah never had another king like him, either before or after his time. He was faithful to the Lord and never disobeyed him, but carefully kept all the commands that the Lord had given to Moses. In the first month of the year after Hezekiah became king, he reopened the gates of the temple and had them repaired. He said to the Levites to consecrate themselves and purify the temple of the Lord, the God of their ancestors. The work was begun on the first day of the first month, and by the 8th day they had finished it all. Then they worked for the next 8 days until the 16th of the month, preparing the temple for worship. And so, worship in the temple was begun again. King Hezekiah and the people were happy because God had helped them to do all this so quickly. Throughout all Judah, King Hezekiah did what was right and what was pleasing to the Lord his God. He was successful because everything he did for the temple or in observance of the law, he did in a spirit of complete loyalty and devotion to his God. After these events, in which King Hezekiah served the Lord faithfully, in the 14th year of the reign of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, the emperor of Assyria, attacked the fortified cities of Judah and conquered them. Hezekiah sent a message to Sennacherib, who was in Lachish. I have done wrong, please stop your attack, and I will pay whatever you demand. The emperor's answer was that Hezekiah should send him 10,000 kilograms of silver and 1,000 kilograms of gold. Hezekiah sent him all the silver in the temple and in the palace treasury. He also stripped the gold with which he himself had covered the doorposts, and he sent it all to Sennacherib, the Assyrian emperor. Emperor Sennacherib of Assyria took all the gold and silver, but he did not leave the land. Instead, he sent 3 of his officials with a large army from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. They shouted their demands. Hezekiah urged the people to be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or discouraged because of the vast Assyrian army, for there is a greater power with us than with him. Eliakim the palace administrator, Shebna the secretary, and Joah the recorder went out to meet them. The Assyrians spoke loudly in Hebrew, so those on the walls could hear them, saying, "You say you are ready for war, but you speak empty words. On whom are you depending that you rebel against us?" Hezekiah's men asked them not to speak in Hebrew, so that those in Jerusalem could hear them. But the Assyrians refused. They shouted, "The great emperor of Assyria says, 'Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. He can't deliver you from me. Don't believe him when he tells you that the Lord will rescue you.'" Has any God been able to stop the Assyrian army? But those listening on the wall remained silent as they had been instructed. Then Hezekiah's officials returned with their clothes torn in grief to report back to the king. When King Hezekiah heard their report, he too tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and went into the temple of the Lord. Then King Hezekiah sent his officials to the prophet Isaiah, who replied, "The Lord says, 'Do not be afraid. The Assyrians have blasphemed me. I will make the Assyrian king hear of a report that will force him to return to his land, where he will be assassinated." Just as Isaiah had said, Emperor Sennacherib heard the Egyptians were marching to fight him. So the arrogant emperor sent Hezekiah a message which read, "Do not let the God you rely on deceive you. Did the gods of other nations I have conquered deliver them?" When Hezekiah got the message, he took it to the temple and spread it out before God and prayed, saying, "Look at the words of Sennacherib, who ridicules you, Lord. Deliver us from the Assyrians, so all nations will know that you alone are God." Isaiah the prophet had a message from the Lord for King Hezekiah, that what the Lord had said about the Assyrian emperor. He will not enter this city or shoot a single arrow against it. He will go back by the same road he came, without entering the city. I, the Lord, have spoken. I will defend this city and protect it for the sake of my own honor and because of the promise I made to my servant David. That night, an angel of the Lord went to the Assyrian camp and killed 185,000 soldiers. At dawn the next day, there they lay all dead. Then the Assyrian emperor Sennacherib withdrew and returned to Nineveh. One day, when Sennacherib was worshipping in the temple of his gods, two of his sons, Adramelech and Sharezer, killed him with the swords, as Lord had said through prophet Isaiah, and then they escaped to the land of Ararat. Another son, Esarhaddon, succeeded him as emperor. In this way, the Lord rescued King Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem from the power of Sennacherib and also from their other enemies. He let the people live in peace with all the neighboring countries. Many people came to Jerusalem, bringing offerings to the Lord and gifts to Hezekiah. King Hezekiah became very wealthy, and all the nations held Hezekiah in honor. Sometime later, King Hezekiah fell ill and almost died. The prophet Isaiah went to see him and said to him, "The Lord tells you that you are to put everything in order, because you will not recover. Get ready to die." Then Hezekiah turned his face to wall and prayed, "Remember, Lord, that I have served you faithfully and loyally, and that I have always tried to do what you wanted me to." And he began to cry bitterly. Isaiah left the king, but before he had passed through the central courtyard of the palace, the Lord told him to go back to Hezekiah and say to him, "I, the Lord, the God of your ancestors, have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you, and in 3 days you will go to the temple. I will let you live 15 years longer." Then Isaiah told the king's attendants to put on his boil a paste made of figs, and he would get well. About that same time, the king of Babylonia, Merodach-Baladan, the son of Baladan, heard that King Hezekiah had been ill. So he sent him a letter and a present. Hezekiah welcomed the messengers and showed them his wealth, his silver and gold, his spices and perfumes, and all his military equipment. There was nothing in his storerooms or anywhere in his kingdom that he did not show them. Then the prophet Isaiah went to King Hezekiah and asked, "Where did these men come from, and what did they say to you, and what did they see in the palace?" Hezekiah answered, "They came from a very distant country, from Babylonia. They saw everything. There is nothing in the storerooms that I did not show them." Isaiah then said to the king, "The Lord Almighty says that a time is coming when everything in your palace, everything that your ancestors have stored up to this day, will be carried off to Babylonia. Nothing will be left. Some of your own descendants will be taken away and made eunuchs to serve in the palace of the king of Babylonia." King Hezekiah understood this to mean that there would be peace and security during his lifetime. So he replied, "The message you have given me from the Lord is good." The end of King Hezekiah's reign. Everything else that King Hezekiah did, and his devotion to the Lord, his brave deeds, and an account of how he built a reservoir and dug a tunnel to bring water into the city of Jerusalem, are recorded in the vision of the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos, and in the history of the kings of Judah and Israel. Hezekiah died and was buried in the upper section of the royal tombs. All the people of Judah and Jerusalem paid him great honor at his death. Later, his son Manasseh succeeded him as king.